This video is about trailer parks and stadiums. Eminem, one of the most iconic rappers in modern history, with a 3-decade-long career and counting, and despite being hugely controversial, he somehow manages this mass appeal. He connects with all ages, all genders, all backgrounds. But what is it that actually makes Eminem so memorable? And what can it teach us about building a personal brand with mass appeal? To answer these questions, we have to talk about Simba. Yeah, that hot little line. Come on, there's something about him, right? We all know how the story goes, but let me recap. Simba witnesses the death of Papa Mufasa in a stampede. Thinking it was his fault, he runs away from the pride and shame. See what I did there? Pride and shame. And he grows up in the jungle under the carefree influence of Timon and Pumbaa, where he learns to become a gentle, kind, fair, sexy lion. But something is calling him to return to Pride Rock. He confronts Scar, reclaims his place as king, and embraces his true identity. Simba's story follows a very simple but extremely powerful 3-sentence story structure that Hollywood writers use to create characters on our screens that we fall in love with. And I am sorry, because once I point it out, you're never going to not notice it, so this is your red pill, blue pill moment. Nice, good choice. The structure is canon event, a moment or phase that changes the course of a character's life. It's usually filled with lowness or pain. Montage, how that character sets out to change from those circumstances. And now, the aftermath of that journey and how what they've learned impacts who they are now. Simba's canon event was the death of Mufasa. His montage was living in the jungle and learning about becoming a man with Timon and Pumbaa. And his "and now" is claiming back the kingdom. These 3 sentences create the perfect cocktail of emotion in our brains for connection. It has failure, conflict, tension, perseverance, transformation, and success, which means it sticks with us. And this structure is everywhere. Batman from Batman Begins. His canon event is the murder of his parents in A Mugging Gone Wrong. His montage is that he lived as a poor man in Gotham's grimy underbelly, trained in the mountains with the League of Shadows and got heaps strong and all that stuff. And now he returns to Gotham to use everything that he's learned to save it. Eminem's life and career follows these 3 sentences exactly. Canon event, he was evicted from his house and he lost his job with his baby daughter Haley. His montage is when he immersed himself in the world of battle rap and worked tirelessly to prove himself, was discovered by Dre, and now he's one of the most famous rappers, unapologetically himself, and he loves his daughter Haley. Because here is the thing. This 3-sentence structure isn't just used by Hollywood writers to create characters on our screens. It's also what the world's biggest celebrities use to create personal brands with mass appeal. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, his own company, for pretty much being a shit guy. His montage is he went to Next, he acquired Pixar, he immersed himself in spirituality and meditation, and now is that he returned to Apple, saw it to its glory era by applying minimalist principles and being kind to people. J.K. Rowling. Now these days, she's a transphobic asshole, but her personal brand story helped build the hype around Harry Potter when it first came out. She was a depressed, poor single mother when she had the idea for Harry Potter. Then she wrote in coffee shops, often with a stroller next to her. And when she was done, she sent the manuscript to like 20 different publishers and got rejected from all of them until one took a chance on her. And now, Harry Potter is one of the most famous stories in history. And there are countless examples of this that you would have heard. Jay-Z, Gary Vee, Chappell Roan, Keanu Reeves, so many celebrities tell you their personal brand stories. And this is what elevates them to icon status, not just their success, but what their success means in the context of their story. That's what we connect with. The good news is that you have a personal brand story and you could be leaning into it to build a personal brand with mass appeal. And I'm going to teach you how. But first, let me tell you about my personal brand story. Oh, and by the way, hit subscribe if you're finding this interesting. My mission with this channel is to help as many people as possible find their thing, become a category of one, so come along for the ride if you want. But I used to be a radio presenter. And one day when I was on air, I got a text from a listener that said, "I have a tattoo of this radio station and you are so cringe that you make me regret having the tattoo." Ow. I spent months after that trying to be someone I wasn't in the hopes that it would make people like me, but it made me miserable. Until one day I woke up and I realized that if I kept trying to be someone for them, I could never become the person that I knew that I wanted to be. So I worked on my confidence, found my voice, built my unique personal brand, and now I am who I am confidently, without fear of judgment. I found my thing and now I help you on this channel do the same. The sign says that as you're listening to my story, you might be experiencing something called neural coupling. This is a process where our brain's neurons mirror the firing patterns of the person telling the story. And scans show that as we're listening to these stories, our brain lights up as if the story was happening to us. This triggers the release of neurochemicals like oxytocin, and this boosts empathy, making us feel more connected to the speaker. This is why single stories are so powerful for mass connection. Politicians know this and they use this all the time. For example, when Kamala speaks on abortion, she doesn't give sweeping statistics, she gives specific examples.
And she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot? She didn't want that? Her husband didn't want that?
It's also the reason you might see a news story about 1,000 people who tragically die in a flood, but feel more moved about a single story about a little girl who got bitten by a dog. Also, what sets us apart from other species is our ability to tell stories. From an evolutionary perspective, stories like religion, money, countries allowed us to come together in large groups, organize ourselves, and cooperate en masse. Stories are the backbone of civilization. So now we know the power of a personal brand story and why it works. But before I tell you how to find yours so you can build a personal brand with mass appeal, I want to give you a word of warning. Jay Shetty had a very powerful personal brand story. He was a rebellious kid, going down the wrong path, until one day he saw a monk speaking at his school and he knew he wanted to dedicate his life to that. He went to live and train as a monk for years, immersed himself deeply in spirituality. Now he infuses his learnings from the monastery with modern self-development to teach everyday people how to think like a monk. Or at least that's what he told us. It recently came out that Jay Shetty lied about a bunch of things and fabricated a lot of the facts in his personal brand story. The personal brand story is such a powerful tool that you have to be careful how you use it, because it will help you build an audience that feels connected to you. And if you build that connection on a lie, you risk losing community, credibility, everything. So when you're building your personal brand story, make sure that you are honest. Okay, so no matter who you are, you have a powerful personal brand story. Everyone has been through some kind of transformation in their lives. To find yours, fill out the canon, event, montage, and now structure. But first, ask yourself these questions. What is the one moment that changed my life? What was my rock bottom? What did I learn from it? How did I change from it? And how is what I'm doing and who I am now an outcome of the journey I've experienced? So now you have it, great. Where do you use it? So many places. When you first meet people, in speeches, in your content, in job interviews, podcast interviews, meeting your girlfriend's parents, anywhere that you need to build a connection with an audience on an emotional level. I'd love to read your personal brand stories, so share them in the comments. And if you got anything out of this, hit like and subscribe. I'm gonna do my best to keep making videos to help you find your thing. Okay, bye.